So in the beginning of the episode here, we're like quickly wrapping up Principal Yaga's storyline, I guess you could say. I mean, this stuff comes back a little later in this season, but for the most part, this is the end of it. And the long and the short of it is that Gojo was more or less keeping Yaga safe, I guess, because the higher-ups just didn't like him this whole time, because now that Gojo's in the prison realm, he's not around anymore, they're showing their true intentions, which is like they were suspicious of him and kind of scared, I guess, because of his curse technique and them not understanding how it works, how he can like create cursed corpses the way that, you know, Panda is. Because Panda is such an anomaly, being that he's completely autonomous, has his own cursed energy, because normally a cursed corpse would have to feed off of the cursed energy of the user, such as Yaga. Panda is like his own thing. So they don't like that, and they're also saying that like, oh, because you could do this, you could just make a whole army, and then you could come after us or whatever, which obviously he's not doing. I don't even know how he became a principal in the first place if they were so suspicious and didn't like him this whole time, but that's besides the point. Anyway, this just explains why he was suddenly shoehorned into that whole big thing at the end of season 2. It also turns out that Panda was captured because they're trying to use him as bait to lure Yaga out, because Yaga was in hiding since the end of season 2. We're seeing Kusakabe releasing him because Kusakabe is indebted to Yaga because Kusakabe's sister's son died, and Yaga used like his cursed corpse making ability to take his soul or fragments of it or whatever and put it into a cursed corpse, so it kind of mimics the son in a way, although it's not literally like a facsimile of him, but it's more or less representing his soul to some extent, and that made his sister happy. It's just showing that, yeah, Yaga's a great guy. It's supposed to make us really sad because he's eventually going to get killed by Gakuganji in this episode. Gakuganji essentially just sent by the higher-ups to be their executioner. He doesn't want to do this, but he's kind of forced to. He is like a company man. He's not like an evil character. He's like a gray character. That's more or less been his trajectory throughout this series, which is why Panda, you know, winds up not attacking him, because he's like, you know, I just see you as the knife that landed on him, because that's all he is. Also, as Yaga is dying, he explains to Gakuganji like how the cursed corpse stuff works and how he made Panda and how you need like 3 souls and you need to put them all together, and then 3 months later you get Panda or whatever, and self-sustaining curse energy. The 3 souls is important because it's integral to Panda's character, and this is going to be explored later on once Panda has like his final moment in the series. Spoilers, you know, it's going to happen later on. I don't know if it's going to happen before part 1 is over or go into part 2, but it's going to happen eventually. So yeah, Yaga is dead, and this whole storyline just seems odd to me. It's just out of kind of left field, but I don't know, maybe you guys feel different. But yeah, Panda's upset because of it, and it explains why Panda shows up later on in the Hakari Fight Club thing. Speaking of that, we're cutting over to Yuji and Megumi because they're going to find Hikari. That was like their mission that they were sent to do from Tengen. You know, we saw in the previous episode that Maki was sent to the Zenin clan to get cursed tools, but she wound up just slaughtering them all in the process. But Yuji and Megumi, a little different. They're just trying to recruit Hikari to help them in the culling game. Hikari is one of the third years. It was also hyped up in season 1 as saying that he's nearly as strong as Akotsu or even stronger than him. That remains to be seen, but Yuji and Megumi, using some slick talking, are able to get into the fight club here. And they have to be incognito because what Hikari is doing is illegal in multiple ways. Not even just, you know, laws of, you know, Japan, but also laws of Jujutsu society, because it involves sorcerers and there's like regular civilians in the audience and they're not supposed to see Jujutsu stuff. So they can't represent Jujutsu High coming there, because then Hikari is going to be like, oh, they're trying to shut me down. So Megumi infiltrates in his own way, and then Yuji winds up going through like the fight club itself. And we see him encountering Panda in the fight club, who is also infiltrated at trying to get to Hikari, but Hikari doesn't want to talk to Panda because he knows who Panda is. It's not like Panda could go incognito. He's a freaking panda. And while they're play fighting, you know, putting on a show for everyone, Panda explains to Yuji what's going on with Hikari, and Yuji's performance in this fight is impressing Hikari enough to where he wants to meet with him. And this is where we're like fully introduced to him in the series for the first time. And we see that he's with another third-year student from Jujutsu High by the name of Kirara. Now, this character is, I'm pretty sure, trans. It's mentioned by Megumi when he's talking to Panda in a flashback here that they're a boy. But as we see, they are depicted as a girl. So they are trans, I guess. This is like super polarizing because depending on how hardcore you get into this fandom, there's going to be people that are saying that, well, if you look at the translations of the manga and what Gege says and what the characters say, this character isn't trans. They're just a boy that appears to be feminine or whatever. But, you know, I'm not really going to get into the weeds of this. They're trans, okay? Going by American standards, this is a trans character. So if you disagree or you want to get angry, let me know in the comments, please. But anyway, Kirara also has some kind of curse technique that warps space to some extent and is keeping Panda from getting to Hakari. We're going to find out more about Kirara's overly complicated curse technique in like a couple episodes, I guess. And speaking of overly complicated curse techniques, that also applies to Hikari as well. Although we're not really going to find out what that is until, I think, part 2 of season 3, or maybe towards the end of season 3, part 1. You know, we'll see. But Kirara leads Yuji to Hakari, and they wind up talking, and Yuji's trying to like BS Hikari into thinking that he's just some random sorcerer, that he's not from Jujutsu High or whatever. And Hikari is like speedrunning the audience with who he is as a character. He loves passion, whether it be people trying to better themselves or whatever, and it ultimately comes down to like everything equates to gambling in some way. Not literally like gambling at a casino, but just, you know, you risking or taking a chance on something is just equated to gambling. It's also why he's like running this fight club and why he enjoys doing what he's doing. And he winds up offering Yuji a drink. And Yuji's like, yeah, I'll take anything except alcohol, you know, because I'm underage. And he was like, oh, I thought you wouldn't care about that, but whatever. You know, Gojo couldn't handle his liquor either. And then Yuji, trying to stay undercover here, is like, oh, yeah, who's Gojo? Because, you know, like we said, Yuji figures out very quickly once they get to the fight club that he has to be incognito here, but he's being a little too incognito because Hakari points out that, like, well, every single sorcerer out there knows who Gojo is. He's like, you know, if you're a sports fan, you know who Michael Jordan is. And also, he was getting a call from Kirara while this was happening. And Kirara is only going to call if something bad is happening or, you know, something's out of whack. So off screen, something is going on with Kirara, maybe with Panda, maybe with Megumi, because, you know, we don't know what's going on with them yet. So that right there was tipping off Hakari, which led him to, you know, question Yuji about Gojo, which, you know, gave it away. And then we see glimpses of what Hakari's curse technique is. We see like these train doors trying to slice Yuji. This is really interesting, but at the same time, don't really look too much into it because I think this is like the only time we ever see Hakari use his ability this way. I could be wrong. Maybe he uses it one other time like this, but this is not indicative of what Hakari's true technique is, which is really funny, but I guess it's just a little appetizer to what it actually is. We're not gonna see it soon. Many episodes from now, we will see it, and that's going to be a really fun episode. I'm really curious how they're going to go about explaining it, because it's much easier explained in manga format, but I'm getting ahead of myself here. Hakari's on to Yuji, and that's where the episode ends. Let me know what you thought about it in the comments, guys. If you liked it, please give it a like. Please subscribe if you haven't already. Have a great day, and I'll see you in the next one.